Hey everyone, and welcome to the Irenic Ref podcast. I am your host, Andrew Gross. The word irenic means aimed at or aiming towards peace. And my goal with this podcast is to try to create a bridge between coaches and officials by showing the humanity of each other in a more robust way, which isn't necessarily achievable in the minimal interactions a coach and official may experience during a game. With all that said, let's get to it. Today's guest has been coaching for 15 years and is going into his 16th year as a head coach and has coached exclusively at the school he's at for all those 16 years. He's been named the Region 7 Coach of the Year 2 times and has accrued over 200 wins in his career. His teams have had a lot of success as he has guided his team to the state tournament 3 times and have claimed the consolation championship in 2009, 4th place in 2022, and just this last year, the runner-up at the Girls Class A state tournament. He has led his teams to 233 career wins. Since he coaches where he calls his hometown, he has had the pleasure and probably the pain of coaching alongside many family members, as well as coaching cousins, relatives, his own kids. And in 2022, he coached 2 of his daughters. His wife was his assistant, and his son was a team manager. Please welcome Michael Koupal. Michael, thanks for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit more. You grew up in the Wagner area, is that correct?
Yes. Nope. I'm originally from Wagner. Grew up on a farm.
And so you have family that lives there. You've got cousins that live there. You've got obviously wife and kids. You've got to coach them. Tell us a little bit about that experience of being a hometown kid, I guess, and then now an adult and getting to coach with family, friends, cousins, even probably like for your friends' kids that stuck around as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I was at USD finishing my education, I ended up actually coming back to this must be 24th year now. I've been coaching football, assistant football. One of the longtime well-known coaches, Russ Morrell, came over from our arch nemesis Bon Home and came over to Wagner and kind of asked me to, hey, you want to come sit up on the booth? Even though I was going to college, and I said, yeah. And so I kind of got hooked doing that and kind of got my feet back in the door back in Wagner. And I've been here ever since. So I know the place well. I know, the kids, the families, even when I went to school and not like you said, I now have some of my own classmates, got their kids now or have gone through already.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of just a revolving door.
It just seems like something that's like a fun place to be, especially if, you call your hometown your hometown. Some people like to get out and be like, yeah, I didn't enjoy high school. I didn't enjoy my hometown. But it would appear based on what I hear from you that your hometown is what you would call your hometown. You had a good experience there.
Exactly. Yep. Nope. Exactly.
And the community, does that play into that quite well also?
Yes. Yep. The community is very opening, always accepting new people, and supports our athletics very, very well. We travel very well. Last night we had a Sodak 16 game, which would have been, lots of people went 3 hours away just to support our girls. So in volleyball.
Yeah. And that's one of the cool things about the smaller towns as well is how basically they say, hey, if you're the last one, turn off the lights when you leave, that sort of mentality that happens. And it's fun to grow up in. Because I don't know if you knew, but I grew up in Alexandria and Hanson Beavers, and you probably coached against my sister Bethany back in the day, and so I can relate with that hometown feel and the boosters and everybody that comes to support you, and it's an incredible feeling to have with that tight knit community. But let's jump into your just a personal introduction here. Tell us about yourself, your family. We kind of talked about them a little bit. But yeah, tell us more where you grew up, your family now, and maybe some hobbies that you have.
Yep. So grew up south of Wagner. We're about 4 miles from the Nebraska border down by the river, kind of rolling hills. I have a family farm here. My wife and we built a house here in 2007. My wife is Tara, and we've been married now for 20 years. We have 6 children. Macy, who's going to graduate this year, she's 18. Ashlyn, who is a sophomore, 16. Cruz, he's 14. Michael Cruz is his real name. We call him Cruz. Riggs, then we kind of skip a few years, and Riggs is a second grader. He's 8. Then we have Dash, who's 5. He's in preschool, and then we have a 2-year-old, Elsie. So we're kind of busy with our kids,
Yeah.
following around doing sports, and we'll have one leaving us, and we just got more joining in. So we stay busy. Our kids are all involved in athletics, and anything they pretty much can get there to get involved in, they're doing. Again, we live out on our farm, so we live about 13 miles from town,
Okay.
and I love outdoors. My wife would rather live in town. She's a people person.
Sure.
So she does a lot of running, being with friends and stuff there. We do have a backyard pool, so that helps a little bit, keep them occupied in the summertime, having people out swimming in there. And I love hunting. Um, I love all types of sports. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Willing to try anything. I am not going to try ice skating or anything with that, because I'm not very good at it. No.
Sure.
But anything else, more than willing to do that stuff. But yeah, we just one thing in the summertime, we following our older kids around, playing basketball on summer AAU club teams. So we do a lot of traveling as a family in the summer.
Yeah, and I think raising kids can be, the hobby in and of itself outside of the realm of coaching, because coaching is a different animal in and of itself nowadays, especially with different summer things that you can do with your players. And
Yeah.
like I have twin boys who are a year and a half now, and it's like I can't imagine you with 6 or 5 older ones and then a 2-year-old as well. That just it's impressive. Kudos to you for being a coach, a dad, and having even like a 2-year-old to be able to do all that stuff with. And so, yeah, kudos to you for that. Let's talk about how you got started in coaching. You kind of somewhat alluded to that with the story of like football and assistant
Yep.
coaching there. Um, is there anything else further back that you can think of that kind of got you motivated to coaching?
Just being in high school, when I was in high school, I actually had 4 different coaches from freshman to senior year for the boys.
Hmm.
My sisters both played and were very successful. Wagner, they won back-to-back state titles in 97, 98,
Hmm.
were runner up in 96. Those were our previous state tournament appearances. And really, I mean, really loved the game of basketball. Actually kind of went to college to play football and figured out, hey, that's not really for me. And I love being a teacher, so I, stuck with that. But when I was down at USD, I'm like, geez, what are some ways I can make money? And one of the work study jobs was like manager for the men's basketball team. I go, God, this is like a no-brainer. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go get paid to do something with basketball.
Yeah.
So I actually did that. Learned a lot from Coach Boots down at USD. Um, that was about the time, if you remember, Josh Mueller, um, uh, Tibbetts. He had Nate
Yep.
Tibbetts, who was a senior, Jeremy Kudera, who's from Del Rapids. All those guys were down there. So, I mean, they had a really good bunch of guys. It was fun being at practice. I was kind of like a dummy practice player at times. So I got to do all that stuff, got to travel with them. But then just learning the X's and O's part from Coach Boots, and, just a lot of with the analytics,
Yeah.
and not just, looking at, hey, that's a great player, but how can we be more efficient and better? And actually we incorporate that into our high school program, where girls get graded every game.
Yeah.
And that kind of determines, your playing time, or how many people we're going to play, just by how you kind of get graded. So it's not just, oh, we got these people and they're going to play.
Hmm.
And they really buy into that, and they understand that, so they understand too that, there's going to be off nights, and that's when other people have to pick the slack up. But it's just got to be consistent and try to change and try to get better as a player. So I learned a lot down there just with all that stuff. And at the college level, is you kind of, the big thing with, it's always funny talking to him because I always saw him a few years after because his son was playing and they'd play when I was coaching in Wagner. When I first started, his son was playing for Vermilion, and we'd always talk. We'd always get to meet and talk the one game that we played Vermilion. And he'd be like, I don't know how you do this. He's like, I get to choose my people. He's like, you're stuck with what you get. And that is a true statement. And, it's just kind of a testament to high school coaches,
Yep.
you got to build your program. You got to continue to build and mold your players, not just to be, great players, but just to be great individuals
Hmm.
in your school and your community. And then hopefully that rubs off on the basketball court. So you got to do that every single year. Whereas college, they just kind of put the pieces together
Yeah.
because of getting stuff in. So, but no, so that's really kind of how I got started. And then again, football, I mean, I coach football too. So I've been paid assistant for like 20 years, but I volunteered, it's up to 24 already. So, but yeah, no, I love athletics and sports and just, helping kids be successful.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of coaches in South Dakota, it's like a huge thing for them. Is like, how can we make these student athletes be people that we can bring up in our community, be good community members, not just get them through to get them through, or not just have a great team to have a great team, but how can we build our community and have good people come out of here and really make an impact in the world. And, you know, every coach I've talked to is kind of similar to that. Is like, how can we make
Mhm.
that impact in that student athlete's life? The one thing I wanted to talk about, you mentioned like the grading system and whatnot. Do you find that seems to be more of like a college mindset, and you incorporate that into a high school thing, or do you see other coaches in the high school realm that also do that?
It's more of probably a college thing because that's just one thing I picked up. And actually now, with the recruiting process with some of the players I've had in the past, and my daughter is being recruited, just talking with coaches and stuff, and I always ask the question too, do you grade players and stuff like that. And that's one thing that they do look at, like the grading system. And it's kind of just one way to hold kids accountable.
Yep.
Um, coaching boys and girls, both genders, it's a total different realm.
Yep.
Boys totally different than girls. And you know, it just kind of keeps them level headed,
Mhm.
and it kind of makes them work for their spots and understand that, it's not just given to them and anybody can take your spot. And that's kind of the way it goes with college too, because they're always looking for somebody better.
Yep.
In high school, though, you don't preach to your kids like, oh, I can go get somebody better, because I can't,
Yep. Yep.
but we got to try to get you better.
Yep.
And, there's your teammates who might be younger, but if they're better than you, then they're going to play. And
Yep.
that's an easy way to put it. And it's actually an easy way to show parents too. If you get on that opposite end, well, why isn't my kid playing?
Yep.
And it's pretty easy to show them that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I would probably say it's more or less of a college thing that I just kind of bought into. Um, but my kids buy into it, and they understand. I mean, they love, because the day after we play a game, they always love to hear, hey, what was our efficiency? What was our efficiency? Because it
Yep.
gives a team efficiency,
Yep.
and then it also gives individual efficiencies. And unfortunately, when somebody has an off game and they got a 2 or a negative up there,
Yep.
they're like, crap, I didn't play very good. But then, oh, so and so had 12,
Yep.
or, and it just fluctuates.
Yep.
So yeah, they like to look at that stuff. And of course, they don't like to look at it when they play bad, but
Yeah.
it's not an everyday occurrence. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so I coached like a year as an assistant at Dakota State, and that was a big thing, was the grading system and the efficiency system. And so I didn't know if that was just something coaching in general, but yeah, it's that, since you said that's like a college thing, I was like, that makes a lot of sense, since that's the exact
Mhm.
experience that I had when I was coaching at the college realm. But it makes a lot of sense as well for I mean, any realm, but even at the college level too. It's like they're going to recruit over you, they're going to have these stat lines, they're going to have this. So in order for you to keep your scholarship, maintain your position, it's going to be very
Exactly.
analytically based. But yeah, okay, cool. I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that. So let's move now on to some people that influenced you into your coaching. You talked about Booth down at USD. I can't remember who you said the coach at Wagner there. Were there any
Yep,
other people
no.
that, yeah, were there other people that kind of put that bug in your ear even when you're younger, or more so as you were going through college and then moving back to Wagner?
It was just one of those deep things where, so as a kid growing up, like now gaming is huge. Like
Yeah.
everybody's got like game devices, but like they're playing Fortnite and they're playing these shooting games and whatever 007. And like I am not a fan of that. My kids are like huge Fortnite kids. I mean,
Yeah.
they're on Fortnite downstairs right now.
Sure.
Um, but no, I loved playing like all the EA sports games like
Yep.
baseball, basketball, NBA. Loved Madden football. And so, I mean, it's been a while since I have, but um, I loved and enjoyed doing that stuff and just, watching games and watching a lot of high school games just in Wagner, even as a kid when I was growing up. And I don't know, things just stick to my mind when it comes to athletics and sports. I'm like, geez, why did they do this? And I'm sure people think about me too. Why did you do this or why did you
Sure.
do that? I mean, it's just in the heat of the moment. You gotta think fast. You gotta think on the fly, and um, I kind of like doing that stuff. And so I don't want to say video games really caused me to be a coach, but with my decision making and stuff,
Yeah.
it was kind of fun. Just relating back to this year, it was so funny because we have actually Trevor Greger, who played for SDSU for 4 years. He's one of our former players, moved back to Wagner this year and was our O-line coach for football. And we were talking at halftime, and I brought up, I'm like, golly, you guys, Madden, like we didn't run enough clock. We gave the team too much time at the end of the first half, and they ended up scoring again. And we were calling plays too quick. And, we ended up having to punt and left 40 some seconds on the clock, where on second down, we should have ran it down or even called timeout. And we kind of put ourselves in a situation where we shouldn't have. But,
Yeah.
um, I just sometimes overthink. I might think too much, but trying to just think of all the angles of, what could happen next. Sometimes I get called to be the Debbie Downer because I'm always thinking of all the negatives.
Sure.
But you got to think of those things,
Yep.
because if it is a negative thing that's going to happen, what's the next move? You got to be 3 steps ahead, not 2 steps behind.
Yep.
And I I don't want to toot my own horn, but that's how I think. I'm trying to think that way anyways. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and I don't see that as tooting your own horn. It's just something that as a coach, if you want to keep coaching and you want to stay sharp, you gotta be able to make those adjustments and see those things happen in real time and even ahead of it. It's kind of like in debate too. You got to understand what your opponent's gonna do before they even do it, so then you have a response for that. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk debate or coaching, and it's the same sort of approach to it. Um, but yeah, some of the coaches that we had talked about that influenced you, do you see some of their styles kind of played out in your coaching style and techniques?
Um,
And what if you do, what are those
yeah,
things?
like Russ Morel. I mean, that guy, like, I mean, it's so hard to explain because I coached with him for, I'm trying to think, about 13 years. And I mean, just learning like just his mindset of how he got kids prepared. And back in that day, I mean, he coached for, I want to say 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
And then uh at the high school level, but just how he got kids prepared back then when there was not all this advancement.
Yep.
And it was just year in and year out, and how he got kids to work hard. And just that. And then like Coach Boots, just you know thinking and talking out loud, and you know just bouncing off ideas off people, and just figuring out how you're going to get the best pieces to the puzzle to work. And if it's not working, change. Because
Yep.
that was a big deal. Like, and that's where the analytics played in the part. Like it's like halftime adjustments.
Yep.
Like, this person is not, like, I don't care if they're a starter or not, they are not producing.
Yep.
Their minutes get cut dramatically. And okay, who's six man? It's kind of like the next man up.
Yep.
And I'm a huge hate to say it right now, New England Patriots fan. They're kind of tanking this year, but
Sure.
the 20 years of glory, I mean, it's the next man up mentality.
Yep.
I mean, who's going to step in and you're not going to miss a beat.
Yep.
And, it's fun to coach teams when you have teams like that, when you have quality, just people,
Hmm.
and then the really good skilled people at basketball. And when you put those two together, then it's really fun as a coach because you just get to kind of sit back and you really don't need to coach because they know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so that gets to be fun when you have those kinds of teams. So yeah, but so yeah, there was kind of both different spectrums from both of them to get. And but yeah, and then just watching lots of sports. I mean, it doesn't matter
Hmm.
if it's NFL, college football, basketball. You just pick up ideas from other people.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of a question that based on what you said about, next man up mentality, do do your players buy into like you talk about the analytics, they buy into like I know that I'm not producing and so the next person is gonna play and it's because that I'm not producing. Have a lot of your athletes in the past and even currently really bought into that and then they see, you know what, I get to play the next game, I'll get a bunch of minutes the next time, but this game I'm just not producing. And so it makes sense why I'm not playing. Do
Yeah,
they buy
and
into that a lot?
exactly. And so, one thing like with basketball, there's four aspects to the game. Like, okay, can you score? If you can score, you're probably going to play.
Yep.
Can you pass? Can you dribble? Can you play defense? Those are the four things that we kind of look for. Um, I'll throw in like last year, our leading scorer, Ashlyn, my daughter was our leading scorer last year, and going into the Sodex 16 game, we played T, which for being a number 2 seed playing the number 15 seed, you think it would be the odds would be like that was like the worst 15 seed ever,
Sure.
to draw
Yep.
as a 2 seed.
Yep.
So yeah, we were pretty nervous going into that game, but we played awesome. But our whole scheme, like we we try to morph every single game. So here's my New England mentality, morphine. We try to morph every game and change what we do as a team. And our kids know that. And I tell them that and I go, this is where it's coming from.
Yep.
And understand, like, I'm a huge New England Patriots fan. The kids know it. I mean, they know it. I have them all in grade school. I coach or teach fourth grade. So
Yeah.
they all know I love the New England Patriots, but like right now they're like, they suck. How can you, how can you say anything about them? But, we just morph a lot. And that going into that game last year, our leading scorer only took 5 shots.
Sure.
And that was the plan. Like,
Yep.
we're not going to force shots.
Yep.
We're going to take good shots and we're going to let other people do the stuff. And we actually put guards in at the post, which they've never done all year.
Yep.
But we actually prepared for the week before we started doing this. Cause I'm like, if we play these guys, because I was already marking it down. I'm like, if we get T, this is what we're going to need to do.
Yep.
So we actually started preparing. The kids did not know it, but we were preparing for them actually before we still had other games to win, but we were starting to put pieces together that this is what we have to do to beat these guys.
Yeah.
And we executed it to a T. And I know one of my seniors said, it's like, I never thought we would have done what we were going to do the whole game. And I'm like, I go, that's why you guys executed it. You
Yep.
executed it to a T. They understood their role. Our star player knew they didn't have to be the star.
Yep.
Other people stepped up, did all the work, and we win by 20.
Nice.
So you got kids that want to win. They don't care who, scores 20 points or who's in the limelight. It's about a team being successful. And
Yeah.
that's what was really great about that game.
Cool. Yeah, that's exciting and awesome insight to learn about your team and even your coaching style and what you do. Is there another fun story that you have about your experience as a coach? It can be a game, it can be just an interaction with a player, or even a previous coach I had on here just said like seeing her kids run out after a win after a game was a good coaching experience.
Um, we like to have fun with our kids. After big wins, we'll go. I'm big onto like songs like, hey, what's a song fitting for this win or
Sure.
a song fitting for this team? I'm not going to put one on here right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not by myself. I don't have my backup singers.
There you go.
Um, But no, we go into the locker room. We like to have fun and get the girls excited, just to let them know that, they really accomplished something. Um, it's only an in game, in gym thing. I do the first year that we made it to the state tournament. Nothing against our cheerleaders, but like, we, I was just like, my goodness. I'm like, okay, girls, I'm going to give you a show. It was our before our first game, and our kind of our walkthrough. And I'm like, all right, you guys can get your phones out. And this was about the time like Facebook or whatever is just kind of blowing up because it's back in 08, 09. I'm like, okay, Mr. Koupal's going to do a toe touch. and so that's kind of been my thing. But as I'm getting older now, I actually have to stretch out because I'm going to be pulling a hammy or something.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the thing. And like last year, in practice, I had I don't know what you call it, a cheer off with one of our other cheerleaders in the gym. So I mean, they always get a kick out of that. So
sure.
I'm more willing to stick my neck out for them.
There you
So
go. That's good. That's awesome. I enjoy those types of stories and really brings out the type of personality that I don't get to see. Like I would never have known that. I don't get to see that side of you. I see the
yeah, you probably
intensity.
see a serious screaming, yelling.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, even so, like when my sister was playing, like I'd sit in the stands and I'd see that, but then I'd also see like the things that other people maybe aren't looking at because I'm watching coaches. I'm not necessarily always watching the games. I'm watching the coaches, and I see you turning around, interacting with your players, just like having a good time. And so I see glimmers of that, but I don't get to see like the full gamut, like you
Yeah,
said right there, which is fun, and your community knows that, and your players know that, which is cool. And I about imagine other coaches are very similar in that regard, that they have those things that
yeah,
they do, and the things that they have done with players in the past that really uh, make them enjoy their coach teacher even more. And so,
mhm.
but talking about interactions, our experiences, is there an interaction with a coach, or sorry, excuse me, interaction with an official? I don't know if I've ever officiated you, so it probably won't be with me, but is there any memorable interaction you've had with an official that is like, this one is just in my brain? I remember this one is really funny, or just a really good interaction.
So it would have been the year in 2008, 2009 when we went to the state tournament. I mean, we started out the year really, really good. And then we kind of just hit some bumps throughout the season. I mean, our competition, we played top-notch competition, like, and we're in a couple classics. Played like Del Rapids at that time was number one. We lost to them by 4. We weren't even ranked. We were ahead the whole game. Actually, we were ahead until like the last minute 20. Ended up losing by 4. Um, but anyways, we kind of just went through some bumps and would win a game, lose a game, win a game. And I mean, we ended up getting to the state tournament. I think we were 12-10 by the time we got there. But our road there was we were actually number 4 in our district, and that's still when they had district play.
Yikes.
So we had to go to Parkston and play them. And I think they had 3 losses on the year. We actually, I'm trying to think, in the regular season, I think we lost to them. We lost to them by 4 there. So we're going there. And I'll never forget because we're down by 1, I think, and there's like there's maybe like 13 seconds. We're side out of bounds, and we end up running one of our non-scorers. We kind of set them up for kind of a back door
Yeah.
and got it, and we got it and 1. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So uh she's got to go to the line, make the free throw. And after the free throw, I wanted a timeout, and I'm like yelling, like the place was erupting. We had lots of people there. Nobody could hear. And I remember it was Jim Hascamp from Hanson. He was
Yeah.
he was officiating, and he was on the opposite side. And I'm trying to think back then if we had 3 officials yet, because that was one of the
No,
changes.
it's still, yeah.
I
It might
can't
have still
remember
been
what
two.
year. It might have still been 2, but I can't remember. But anyways, because I think the guy on my side was already all the way down the court, And I'm like calling timeout and they would not like listen to me. I seriously ran. I was like over halfway out the court, just yelling timeout. There's like girls running by me with the ball. And so they granted me the timeout, but I'm like, and then they put the ball on the side out, like not under the basket. And there was only like 4 seconds left.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, that was one. I'm like, okay, I went all the way out of my coaching box. And like
Yeah.
now this, like, if they step out on the court, you should be giving them a warning. I'm like, I was across the court. And so, yeah, I'll never forget that. I mean, I think Jim was a little surprised when he saw me. I was like, way out there. I'm like, time out right in his face. so, so yeah, I will not forget that though, but that was a great game. Yeah,
That's
that was a big upset win for us. So
that's awesome. So probably back in that day also, you probably only had a 14-foot coaching box. Is that correct?
yeah,
Not
no,
the two.
yes. Yeah, it was you were not on the base. You could not go down to the corner. I don't even know if it was 14 feet. It was just that little
Yeah, that little square.
yeah, the little square from line to line. Because they
So
still use that we go down to Nebraska for one game.
okay.
It's even shorter than that. It's like 4 feet. You
Wow.
just stand there.
Do is that, do you think that's a rule you're glad was added, the extra 14 feet there or whatever?
Hey, you aren't kidding. I love that. I'd rather stand way down by the because our water's always on the bench. I
Yeah,
could just sit
exactly.
there and drink water the whole game. I just stand by the water cart most of the time.
All right. So yeah, speaking of rules that yeah, that you were glad were added, is there a few? And then on the flip side, is there some rules that you're like, man, I wish they were modified, tweaked, or just like, let's just get rid of this rule?
Um, I do love the shot clock. I was a little leery coming in, to be honest. And since we've used it, we might have had one shot clock violation
Yeah,
in the last whatever how many years it's been.
sure.
I mean, it's just I don't think it affects, teams like now teams
Yeah.
that want to run flex consistently, or you get to the end of the games and stall. I mean, that's just boring. I
Yep.
mean, shot clock is like major plus, I think, for basketball.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see how this free throw rule. I mean, it's almost like in high school, the rule needs to not go 5 because we're only 8 minutes.
Yeah,
Might be 4.
sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard in close games at the end because if you're a team that doesn't foul a lot
Yeah,
and you get behind, that fourth quarter is going to be it's
crazy
going to be a
one.
nightmare. I mean,
Yeah,
it's going to be, and I just hope though, with this now where teams might have to actually foul a lot because they're trying to get rid of the foul.
yeah,
In my mind, is it actually going to be clean or is it going to get dirty at the end?
yep, yep,
And what I mean by dirty, I mean by dirty play, like we're trying to foul, and if they're not calling it, or first of all, if we got a foul, we're not happy, and are those players actually going to commit legal fouls, or are they going to be illegal? That's where I'm a little worried because I mean we
yep,
don't want to hurt kids,
yep,
um, but in the same sense, I mean they know they're going to have to foul.
yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell on that one.
All right. And is that do you have one that you wish was modified, or is that kind of one that's kind of in that modification
That
one
that
that
that that would maybe be one that's kind of the modification. You know, another one, I guess I really haven't run into too many. Another one would be the you know, player control fouls coming under the rim. I
yep.
mean that is so I mean again at the official's discretion, are they in high school there's no circle.
Hmm.
And so you got to correct me if I'm wrong because maybe I'm even wrong. Um if a player's flying and if you're standing under the basket and they come and you get mulled over, I mean, that's an offensive foul, correct?
Yeah, according to the
Yeah.
rules in high school,
So
it's yeah.
yeah, so I mean that's kind of a tough one, but again, but now with 2 officials, that would be really hard because you're actually looking for a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Now with 3, yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I would say so. I do a few college games, and it's as and maybe I think the hardest thing would probably be for the older officials that have been in it a long time to
Mm.
try to reprogram their mind. But the ones that are good at what they do and know and are good at officiating, it'll be an easy transition because it's like feet on, feet in. we're going block, you know. And I
Yep.
think it'd be a relatively easy switch for those officials. The ones that the ones that I don't want to say they don't care. They are there to help the game for people to have
Mhm.
games, and they aren't looking to go to state tournaments. They aren't looking to necessarily get better. They just are there to help the game and to help student athletes have games. It might be a little more difficult because you might get a little fluctuation in the calls being correct and not as it pertains to that. But yeah, I mean, I've heard quite a few coaches that say that might be a good next step would be the restricted arc, because it's weird.
Mhm.
Minnesota doesn't have a shot clock, but they have restricted arc, and so
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
I think that might be coming down the pipe, but again, I think that would have to be a modification. You know, our association makes themselves. I don't know if high school sports may ever adopt that until they
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of collisions that are happening and it's negatively injuring student athletes in a way that, you know, statistics are showing like this needs to be removed from the game.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Another good one. I do love when they moved you up the lane on the block. You're
Okay.
off the block and you're up to the next spot. That I think
Yep.
that makes it a lot cleaner because I mean, when you're that far down and you were on the square, I'm like, you're getting pushed under already anyway.
Yep.
So I think that's a great change on that one too. So, but
Yeah, you're already starting below the hoop, so then someone
yeah.
just turns and seals you off, and they get the rebound. And plus, now you have everybody in the lane minus the one shooter, almost like
Mhm. Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
like isn't like no help at all. But yeah, sure, I like those. I think I've heard that lane one actually another time from another. I don't know if it was a coach or an official, but yeah, I've heard that one, and I'm like, I don't even think about that because I don't even know if I played with that one, to be honest with you. I'm so young, I guess if you want to say it that way, that I didn't even play with that one. We had always been up the above the block. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really
See,
weird.
I got below the we started actually we was below the block because I think I coached about 3 or 4 years before they actually switched it. So yeah, it was that was a good change, I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Last question I have for you is for newer officials that are coming into the game of basketball that are officiating. What is something you would recommend for them as an official? Any sort of insights you can give to a newer official that, I mean, the reason why I've been asking this question to coaches and to kind of get their perspective is, there's just this weird climate right now where, officials seem to get a lot of the brunt of things. And if we can keep officials 2 or 3 years in, then it seems like they will stay as officials. So what do you think is some sort of feedback? I don't know if feedback's the right word, but just something you can give to newer officials that are coming into the game to help them be a better official starting in year one.
Great question. I don't know if I'm gonna have a real great answer for this, but actually we put on two booster club events in Wagner. And
Okay.
like so we just had one this last weekend. We had 36 girls teams, 5th through 8th grade. So we have 4 separate divisions, but our high school kids are officials. And then we try to find one adult that volunteers to go with some of our upperclassmen to officiate. And we've been doing this for years. Actually, when Jason Christensen came down, or he was coaching in Wagner, he was coaching boys.
Yeah.
Um, we put on an Easter weekend tournament. We would have 50 to 60 teams on could the Saturday of Easter weekend. And again, same thing with officials. Our high school kids would officiate. And one thing that we always just kind of tell our high school kids is like, hey, if you're gonna call foul, just blow the dang whistle and let it be heard.
Yep.
And just be very blunt about it. Like make the call, say what you're doing, and go. And if you're gonna be out there kind of twinkle toeing around and not sure or aggressive in your call, and that's kind of what it's got to be. Just like play, you want to be aggressive in your play. You want to be better than your opponent. Whereas officials, you're not trying to be better than your other partner. It's you're working together. But I guess you want to be better than the officials in the stands, if you want to call it
Sure.
that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
or the coaches. You just make the call. I
Yep.
mean, and that's kind of what it is. I mean, there's always going to be people that disagree. I mean, whether it's a coach or it's a player, or there's somebody in the stand, but I think just thinking that, I made the call and I made the right call.
Yep.
I mean, I'll never forget this. We were playing in winter. I don't know if you remember Devin Brecky. Devin Brecky. So that
Yeah.
would have
Yep.
been back in, gosh, must have been, I'm trying to think. It was her junior year. I think we went out to winter. And she
20,
had,
yeah, 2009. Was that 2009 or
yep, 20,
2010?
yep. I think it was 09, 010 or 09, 10. And we went out to winter and uh, we're going in the first half. We're cruising pretty good. And they call her for a travel. And I'm like, and she had like, I mean, she was 5'10",
Yeah.
but her first step, like she could seriously, if she could get from the 3-point line to the rim in one dribble, and her first step was like 5 feet. Like she just drove like off that back foot and just sprung out, and the ball was down with the foot. They called her for a travel. And I was just like looking at him, and I was talking to the guy beside me because the guy across called it, and it was I can't think of their names right now. They're actually very good officials. They're from Pier, and they came back out at halftime, and he came up to me. He's like, yeah, we talked about that call, and he's like, you were right. I go. She does have a very big first step. I'm like, she's gonna get around people. But it was so funny because he's like, she got so far, and like, that's a travel. I'm like, that is not a travel. And so no, it's just communication. And I love when, you know, officials communicate and talk, and it's fun to talk. Um, but yeah, when you disagree on things sometimes, then that's not so fun, but
Yep.
that's just like life. I mean, we disagree as human beings walking down the street. So it's only a game. And some of my Kelly Fife, who now refs a lot of, big college games, used
Yep.
to be down. We'd have him in Wagner 3-4 times a year.
Yep.
And I actually when he went to Wesleyan, I was going to Mitchell Tech at that time. So I knew him really well, played softball with him in the summer and really knew him well. And I mean, we disagree on the court. And when the game's over, here's talking about like, all right, let's talk about that call. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yep.
You tell me your side, I'm going to tell you my side.
Yep.
I mean, so that's fun to do that too. And I mean, in the heat of the moment, coaches want to win. Officials want to make sure they make the right calls. And sometimes for men, it's hard to let their egos go. And
Sure.
that's just the game of life, I guess.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I agree completely with that because as, someone that wants officials to be good, I don't really care if the call is right or not. Like I do, but the biggest thing for me is if you're going to blow a whistle that's weak and then you're going to make a call that's questionable, that's really difficult to overcome. And
Yep.
now as a crew, we get brought down to like, are we a legitimate crew here? But if you blow that whistle strong and the call is questionable, at least the coach is like, well, they blew their whistle pretty hard. So I think I have to agree with them here, or at least somewhat agree. And I mean, I don't know if you agree with that statement, but at least if it's a stronger whistle, it's going to be
Yep.
more believable than a questionable whistle and a questionable call.
And I love too sometimes, with 3-man crews, if a call's made and you have kind of like simultaneous whistles,
Yep.
I love like before they call or they let one guy call, sometimes they whether talk it over first. I
Yep.
mean, and whether you're a coach and like, oh, that's the wrong call, blah, blah. When you got two guys talking about it, now they're talking about it and
Yep.
they're figuring out, and more than likely they're probably right. I mean, that's an easy way too to kind of keep coaches, I guess, in their place. So I do like that when they do talk,
Yep.
amongst themselves to make sure the call is correct.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Again, thank you for joining me this evening. Any last word for anyone watching this, or even the Raiders Nation down there?
Yeah, no, it's Raider Nation. It's been going great. We just gotta. I love this. This is great. I can't wait to hear some of your other people that you've had on here, and yeah. So I look forward to upcoming season, and hopefully we get ES official sometime. I'm gonna have to get
Yeah.
on date. He's one of your alum from Hanson. He's
Yeah.
our new AD down here now. So Yeah.
All right. I'll see what I can do. I'll shoot an email over to
Okay.
him, see if I can get over there and get you yelling at me for at
Yeah.
least one evening. All righty. Thanks again,
All right.
Coach Koupal. I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, this has been the Irenic Ref podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Gross, and we will see you next time.